Alright guys, here we are. This is the second episode of Home of Wargamers Live. There's quite a lot of you in the chat, so let's start very quickly. The first Home of Wargamers has been very successful. We've been receiving a lot of very positive comments, and we're also very happy that you've been involved a lot into the success of the Home of Wargamers, or the first episode of Home of Wargamers Live. So we decided to replicate it, and we actually decided to make it a monthly event. We've got a lot of new stuff coming out, a lot of new stuff that we have to announce to you, and we've also got a lot to share and exchange. So we wanted to make that this one a monthly meeting with our community, and hopefully you'll find very interesting stuff as we go. As last time, same thing. We're gonna have the same structure in the stream. So we'll start with the hot topics. Either the recent news or new stuff that we haven't announced yet, but is very interesting to you guys. We are gonna have a 10-15 minute session about Panzer Corps 2. We are pretty excited about what we're going to show you. Then we have a new game announcement that will take the majority of the stream. That's basically the whole of the second part of the stream. And we're gonna then move to the Q&A, so we urge you to ask questions in the chat, or just wait before the end of the Q&A, and we'll answer these questions later on as we go. So let's get on. Let's get moving. The first announcement, or the first news we've got to share with you, is about Field of Glory Empires. We have we are going to start from tomorrow a set of challenges on the game. These are going to be challenges addressed to anyone with a YouTube channel or a Twitch channel, or for the media. Of course, you're going to be to be eligible for that, you're going to have to write to us. So it's an invitation-only challenge thing. But this is going to be the first time where you're going to be confronted with the game itself. The first one is going to be set in the Italian peninsula. The goal of the challenge is going to be basically to conquer Italy in the fewest amount of turns possible. You're going to be using Rome. Rome is actually in the game one of the most interesting nations, but also one of the most approachable ones, because there's a lot of affinity historically with what people know about ancient history. There's a lot of known stuff, as opposed to some of the other factions in the game that are a bit more obscure. So we wanted you to start with something slightly easier, but also kind of challenging as well. At the same time, the challenge itself will not focus on specific aspects of the game. It will sort of make sure that we make sure that it's giving you a fresh update on what the game's about, and an idea of what you're going to be confronted with when the final game is releasing, but not focusing on specific aspects of the game. So we're not drilling down too much in the different parts of the game. To present it properly, we have a stream going on tomorrow. It's going to be hosted by Das Tactic, our fellow Australian YouTuber and Twitch streamer. He's going to be live tomorrow at stupid times for Australian time, to be honest, but he's up for it, so that's great. So he's going to be live at 6 p.m. BST tomorrow. So basically this time now, and we're going to present the challenge. He's going to play through the challenge itself, and then it's going to be up to you guys. If you want to be part of the challenge itself, you have to write to us. We have set up an email address. The address is challenge@streedrain.co.uk. Write to us, and you're going to be invited to join the challenge, and we'll make sure that you've got a code to start playing Field of Glory Empire straight away. The second bit of news I've got for you is about a game that we've announced last month, Neverdark. Alberto, you're the brand manager. Alberto Casolini, here with me today. Alberto is the brand manager of basically all the Slytherin branded titles. You're following in Everdark, and the guys have been around traveling the world presenting Everdark, right?
Yeah, they've been in San Francisco at GDC. They've been at Boston at PAX East. And this week, if you happen to be in Berlin, don't miss the Berlin Games Week, because Everdark will be there, Simteract will be there, and it will be your chance to see the game and meet the devs and, you know, have a wonderful time with them.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things we've got, Everdark guys have been, Simteract have been really trying to collect a lot of feedback from the players out there. And that's what's happening as we speak. Really, I mean, it's a live type of feedback we're getting before we go into beta. So before the game is released into the wider public, and it's proving really useful, because in this process of actually optimizing UI, making sure that the game is flowing the right way, this live events are a bit like a focus group. So it's a very useful process. So if you're actually interested in knowing more about Everdark, just wishlist the game. It's gonna be it's on Steam. You can wishlist it now, and you make sure that you're always up to date on what's happening on the game itself. Everdark is releasing this year, so it's another one of these big releases we've got coming. We are really excited about it. I'm really looking forward to that game. To be honest, it's a pretty interesting take on strategy gaming. So let's there's a lot to be happy about. On another note, and to move to more like matrixy stuff, as I like to say, Command has just got a new DLC. Command Desert Storm released just a few days ago. I think from the first look into what the results on actual how many people actually bought the game, and the reaction we get from players. It's an interesting DLC, because we've seen that a lot of people actually bought the DLC because they immediately recognize the setting, but also because it's also a very good introductory way to actually learn Command. Command, we know, is not an easy game to play, but it's also a game that is about modern warfare. And the Desert Storm War is actually a perfect example of modern warfare, but not evolved enough that it gets too complicated. So it's the Desert Storm scenarios are actually a perfect way to actually learn some of the mechanics, but also get used to stuff like high-tech war, and and a lot of the more contemporary war elements, and considering that it's a 1999 game, it's a standalone game. You don't need to buy the whole set to start with it. It's actually proven to be very successful, and consider Command is now 5 years old, so it's a proof that the franchise itself is very lively. It's got a present, it's got a past, but it's also got a very bright future, and we're really happy about how Command Desert Storm went, and we're looking forward to having more Command games releasing in the near future. Which leads me to the next one. The next announcement is actually something we've not announced yet. And I'm pretty excited about this one, because when we released Armor Brigade back this Christmas, we were really surprised by the number of. We knew it was a very good game. We knew that a lot of Wargamers would follow us on the and the incredible guys at Veitika on the journey of making a modern warfare simulation that was true to life, but also an enjoyable experience. Taking the idea of a close combat style game and making it into a modern warfare, more like a simulative game. The game was exceptionally successful. We had a lot of very positive reviews, both from you guys out there, but also from the press, and that took us to a level of, okay, right, this is great, what do we do next? And we really wanted to take the development of the game into two different directions. The DLCs, creating new content for the game for existing players, but also we really wanted to make sure that we listened to the players, and we wanted to make sure that everything that the players out there were asking for we addressed, or the developer the developer is so much into actually creating a vital vibrant community that they were like, okay, how do we listen to them and how do we put into the game the stuff that they ask for. So the next evolution into Armored Brigade is, of course, that we have a DLC coming up. The next DLC is coming up next month, the beginning of May, and it's going to bring 2 new factions. The 2 new factions are going to be set in a map in a brand new map, and so the 2 new factions, as you see from the screen here, are going to be Italy and Yugoslavia. So the setting is the same, in terms of timing. We have a complete new map and 2 new factions. But before we go into that, let's look at what are the new features we've put in the game, and these will be available for everyone out there. So it's not going to be paid for features. The most important one, we've listened to you guys, and we can announce that we are going to release a campaign generator for the game. This is big. We have, it's not like a small feature. Here's a new slight change in the database, and we roll it out. The campaign generator is going to be a great way of actually interacting with the game and using the game in a completely different way. So the idea is that we will the developers come up with this fantastic system where basically you have to connect 2 points in a map. The game will actually generate a number of battles based on this map and on these waypoints, and will lead you from point A to point B into by using a set army that you set up yourself, and taking over and bringing your units with you across the map. The idea of the carryover is that basically to create a consistent campaign that uses the units in the best possible way. We wanted to make sure that this experience of the campaign was not only just like, hey, here's a few scenarios you can link together and that's it. We really wanted to make sure that there was the feel for a campaign, and that's why the carryover of the units. As we go, for more the idea of the scenario itself, we really wanted to have a setting that was where we managed to involve 2 new nations, like completely new. That means that we will have over 250 new units in the game. They will cover time from 1965 to 1991, and the 2 new nations, Italy and Yugoslavia, are going to release at the beginning of May with a new map as well, which is a square of 61 by 61 kilometers. And that's the famous Gorizia Gap, which is basically the border between Italy and Yugoslavia. Back in the day, it's a very, very sensitive geographical area. So in these screenshots you can see some of the Yugoslavian features, Yugoslavian units, and we'll have, at the moment, the guys at Vitica are busy implementing the Italian units as well. So we're definitely on time for this beginning of May release, and we're really waiting for your feedback on this, because it's a big step forward for us. Armored Brigade is definitely becoming a absolutely huge priority for Matrix games, which I guess closes up the news and new announcements and news items. We really wanted to make this part of the stream fast, but also give you really interesting stuff to look at. And this brings me to the next stage and the next phase in the stream, which is looking a bit more in detail to Panzer Corps. So I've got here with me Alberto, who's been nodding a lot so far, but not said a lot. But Alberto, right, Panzer Corps gameplay. Panzer Corps, you know, we have been waiting. You know, the guys out there have been waiting for a long time to see gameplay for Panzer Corps. We have been hiding content so far because we really wanted to show something that was,
We're
you know,
teasing them.
we've been teasing them a lot for sure with the dev diaries and such. Right, where do we want to start from? You know, what are we going to tell us? What are you going to tell us today?
Well, basically, the first thing I want to say is that today is a kind of a historic day for all Panzer Corps 2 fans because we're showing the first ever gameplay footage of Panzer Corps 2. It's just a little bit of a teaser, just you know, for your taste. But I can already announce that next month will be an even bigger date for Panzer Corps 2 because it will be the date when we fully reveal the gameplay of Panzer Corps 2. So mark it on your calendars. Today we want to talk a bit about the new engine and our approach to graphics in Panzer Corps 2 and what we changed compared to Panzer Corps 1 and why. And so basically Panzer Corps 1 is a bit dated now. It's been a great game, it's our most played game in our community, but it's showing its years a bit. So for Panzer Corps 2, we really wanted to upgrade the graphics and bring it to a new standard. We really want to up the bar, so to speak. So if we can start with the first video. We really wanted to keep some of the winning features from Panzer Corps 1, which is the terrain needs to be very clean looking, and you immediately need to be able to recognize which terrain type is in a specific hex. That said, another specific feature we wanted to keep in full Panzer Corps style are those really big and recognizable units. More on that in a bit. In Panzer Corps 2, everything is very clean looking, and you can immediately recognize a unit or a terrain type. Compared to Panzer Corps 1, there is a huge amount of map variety, as the next video is going to show. Basically, in Panzer Corps 1, you only had 3 different map variations. In Panzer Corps 2, this is big. In Panzer Corps 2, you have 240 different map types. You heard it right, 240, which is a huge amount of map variety. There are a number of factors combining with each other, like location of the map, weather, ground type, and season. All these factors combining together make for over 240 different combinations. As you can see from this video, the amount of visual variety is huge. It's just huge. We also have a lot of new units to show you. In this video, you just see a bit of them, but this is also very big. In Panzer Corps 2, there are over 970 different unique unit types. That's more than Panzer Corps 1 and all these DLCs combined, like way more. And all these different unique unit types need to be immediately recognizable, and that simply wouldn't have been possible with the old 2D engine. So that's also a reason why we switched to the new engine. All these units can also get different camos, different flags, different historical symbols. So really, the amount of visual variety you can get in Panzer Corps 2 is astonishing.
It's interesting, Alberto, to see that you know the game. You know, we've been waiting so long, but you know, the game's really looking like a really modern, contemporary version of a war game. You know, Alex Shargin, who's the, of course, the lead and the mind behind Panzer Corps, and he's been working a lot, to find the right balance between, okay, moving to 3D, fantastic, but what is it that makes 3D interesting to players? We knew that we're gonna get, some criticism from the super hardcore fans for moving to 3D, but there's a lot of very good reasons why this happened, and it's not only the eye candy and because the game looks really really nice, but there's a lot of reasons why that happened, and having all these varieties, having all these visual options is of course one of them. What I liked from the first video, if you can show it again, Simone, is here you can actually see that although the map here looks absolutely cohesive, and it actually looks a nice landscape, but then when the hex appears, you can actually see that each and every hex has its own characteristic. It's very neat, it's very distinct what they represent. Then it goes away and it's just a beautiful landscape. This you can't do in you can't do it in 2D, and that's one of the things that really amazes me on how Flashback has done an incredible job of actually using 3D for the right reasons. I absolutely love this, and of course the units. I mean, over 900 units on a game at launch. It's just impressive. We're
closer to 1,000 then.
Yeah, it's just like make another 40 and get to 1,000 and get in the Guinness World Record, right?
Yeah, we might as well before release. I mean, who knows?
That's really really cool. Right. So next up.
Actually, we also wanted to show you a bit of the new UI, which has been designed from scratch. As you can see from this screenshot, this camera's panning over a screenshot. We took inspiration from the Art Deco style from the 20s and 30s, so that's completely on topic in regards of Panzer Corps 2. We think this new UI is very sleek and neat looking, and it's just amazing. It makes a perfect use of its available space. It doesn't encumber the vision. It keeps a lot of room inside of the screen, so you can see all your units while displaying all the useful information in the right spots. We can also show you another video here. A problem we had with, basically with other games, is that it was very difficult for players to play at different resolutions. In Panzer Corps 2, the UI is completely scalable. The proportion between the gaming area and the UI will always be the same. The only thing which is different is basically the level of detail. But Panzer Corps 2, as you can see, is a game built with the future in mind. So when all you guys will have 8K monitors, the UI of Panzer Corps 2 will fully support it, and you will have no problems.
And the units as well, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, as you can see, the unit detail is still amazing even at really high resolutions. Also, as you can see in this video over here, the UI's layout is completely customizable. As you can see, you can resize every screen. You can change the shape, their size, just to your liking. So it's really up to you and your preferences to. You can also enlarge the map, as you can see. You can just zoom on things, make them bigger, display more information, just to your liking. It's great.
I think this also shows that there's a lot of this is one of the reasons why we didn't want to sort of show stuff earlier on, was that in order to show these things, which are the very very first things, we didn't even look at gameplay yet, but this is really what we wanted to show you guys was the amount of thinking that goes behind the evolution of a successful series like Panzer Corps, the amount of ideas that you need to have to improve the series, but also create that sense for the community that they've been listened to. They've been red,
Yeah.
and so we definitely want that, and I have to say that the guys at Flashback have been absolutely amazing at that.
Yeah.
At this.
Yeah, our community is very passionate about it, especially on the forum. They always have some suggestion or lot of feedback.
Yeah.
Alex Sharvin is always on top of it, so
Yeah, I think one of the big things about Panzer Corps 2 is that we really want 100% to make it right. So absolutely important for you guys to give us feedback and make sure that we digest everything and as we move forward. In the next stream, so that's beginning of May, first Monday of May, we're going to basically have a full session about Panzer Corps.
You're going to love it.
We're going to have a gameplay reveal, with a lot of in-depth information about the gameplay itself. So you're not going to be looking at maps and tanks shooting at each other, but really go into the detail of what the gameplay is about, and what the new things are, and how again we are going to use the 3D models and the 3D world we've created, to the good of the game itself. Alberto, thanks a lot. It's been very interesting. We are going to be answering questions back later towards the end of the stream. We now have a new announcement to make, which I'm very excited about, and a change of guest as well. You guys have been guessing what it is. I don't think I actually read anyone guessing it right, although there were hints about it, but pretty evident hints about it as well. But let's see a trailer, and we'll be right back.
The centuries pass. 300 years since a brave hero's army struck down the Shadow Lord, banishing him from the world of air. 300 years and heroes become legends. Legends become myth. Myth fades from memory. But now, thunder whispers in the east. A new empire rises, clad with might and splendor. Conquering the earth with magic and iron. But darkness rides with them, and shadowy tendrils reach across the land. A power that twists reality and threatens our world. Once again, Air calls for a hero to unite it against a terrible foe. A general to forge a powerful army. A general to lead them into battle. A general to defy the coming storm.
Right, so you know what it is now. There were hints, to be honest. There's a box up there, and we are pretty happy to announce this one. As I said, change of guest. Jan Wagner, 23 years after Fantasy General released. Jan Wagner from Owned by Gravity is here to present us their next game, Fantasy General 2.
Yes.
Welcome to the Slytherin Bar. And
thank you. Very excited to be here.
The Steam page is publishing right now, so you'll be able to wishlist the game as we speak in the next few moments. It's already out for wishlist on GOG as well. So it's there, it's out there, it's in the public, and I guess as I was saying, really excited about it. Can you tell us a bit more about Fantasy General 2 and how the project came to life?
Yeah, I mean it's been a while since the first one. And actually it was 20 years in 2016 that it released, and we talked about it, 20th anniversary, and playing Fantasy General. When I was starting out, I was playing that game over and over again. And 20 years after we came up with it, it's like, how great would it be to actually play that game? So we revisited it, And we found out that a lot of the game was in our imaginations. It was a great game, it still is a great game, it plays well, but some of the stuff like the story and some of the depth that we imagined to be there wasn't actually quite the way we remembered it. And then we thought, we just want to make the game that we imagined as Fantasy General, and that's how it came about, and you guys have been nice enough to allow us to do it.
All right, yeah, no, it's a joint venture, isn't it? You know, it's an interesting thing because when we looked at Fantasy General, we were, you know, of course we did Panzer Corps, so we had this idea of, okay, it's great to bring some of the old games back to life.
Yeah.
But as you were saying, some of these games are more like in our minds than they are in, you know, in reality, you know, because we used to play them when we were kids. It's like, you know, it's a fantasy, it's a fantasy exercise. So actually bringing them back is not an easy exercise, isn't it?
No, it's actually quite difficult because the the vast amount of things that's in there is something that today is just hard to do. It's very costly because there's a gazillion units in it, and also some of the gameplay elements transfer well, like the just one more turn thing, but some of them don't actually do that well if you just do it now. So we had to modernize it and make it a game that's up to speed with the time and still keep the essence of Fantasy General as we see it. And we've tried to do that. I mean, if you see at the like we have different landscapes, we really try to make them feel different, but also be relevant to the gameplay. So everything we do sort of ties together, has to tie together to create a new unit, from the lore, from the story that we do, to the world we create, to the landscapes and the different terrains we have, to the different types of units that we offer. They all actually become part of the gameplay, and that was for us an important part to actually, as we said, make it like we imagined it. And in our imagination, that all sort of smoothly blended into one another, and that's what we try to do as well here.
From the screens we're seeing, there's quite a lot of variety in terrain and settings. You know, can you tell us a bit more about, you know, the setting itself and how it connects with the old Fantasy General?
So we still play in the world that Fantasy General had. So it's on the world of air, and it's the continent of Caldonia, which was the beginning continent on Fantasy General. So the first battles that you fought were fought there. We're going to sort of zoom in on that continent, and we're going to provide a storyline 300 years, as the trailer said, after the Fantasy General setting. That's actually where we are. So the world has developed a bit. The old heroes that you play yourself have become part of the sort of legendary history of the place, and you can actually find them in the game as well. So you can find an item named after Krell. You can actually find Archmage's Krell Tower, which is one of the pivotal points in our campaign. So for people that know Fantasy General, they'll remember stuff and they'll see stuff that we go like, oh, that's nice. For people that don't know it at all, that's fine as well, because we created a world, and we're slowly led into that world where there's two big factions. One is sort of the Highland Bavarian clans, and the other is the Empire. And you can see, or you be part of the struggle that these two large factions have with each other.
One of the things you said was, you know, Fantasy General back in the days was a bit, I wouldn't say weak, but it was just like a bit old, you know, into how it treated some of the aspects, you know.
Yeah, it's a little superficial. Like there was a lot of story there, but it wasn't followed on. It doesn't really translate. The story didn't translate well into the maps you played. You had heroes there, but you picked them up once and then they just were there. They have a backstory, but that was never used. And for us, everything that we have is used. So if you have a hero, we do have a couple of heroes, they have their own personality, they have their own story, and that shows in the game because they react to what you do. So if you make certain decisions, the heroes will speak out and go like, oh, I don't like that, I don't concur.
Right.
And in the end, they may leave you. If you really go against them time after time, they'll just walk away and go like, I'm not going to work with you anymore.
You said about the different heroes and such. So what are the factions? What are you able to play?
So the player faction for the first campaign that we have in the game is going to be the Barbarian faction, like we call it. It's sort of a mixture of Viking and Celtic elements. They feature, for example, one of the first things you do is to try to win over the trolls to your side, so you can field troll units, and you get to be the heir of a small Highland clan, and slowly sort of build up your influence in the Highlands. And there's going to be one big event that I'm not going to give away yet, that'll change the fate of the Highlands forever, and sort of by accident put you into a leadership position, and then you want to take revenge or want to take the guys that sort of create the problems for you. And the first thing is you invade the borderlands, and then you face the Empire. And the Empire is the other big faction. It's kind of sort of a Roman, Byzantine buzz, but it also uses undead, for example. A lot of the great buildings they build are built by undead labor. So you have the slightly sort of barbarian guys that have nature magic and are very tuned with nature. You have the Empire, very civilized, very rich, using undead. We try to not do a good-evil thing. We try to not do so black and white. Both of them have their very own reasons for being the way they are. And they're good reasons if you know, depending on which faction you tend to go for.
It's an interesting take that, you know, the modernization of fantasy, and not fantasy general only. You know, we've seen a lot in this, you know, modern cultural elements that, you know, there's no good evil faction. It's more like, you know, all about choices. And fantasy general is a lot about choices, right? It is
really a lot about choice. For us, strategy, I mean, after all, strategy is a number of choices you make. Like on the very core gameplay is always, am I going to use this unit to attack that unit? But we've built choices into everything. The story is about choices. You make important choices that are, you know, going to affect your heroes, your morale, your army, the way you fight, which allies you get. You make choices with regards to the upgrade links. So we haven't locked you, if you have a unit like a light infantry unit, it's not going to stay a light infantry unit forever. You can upgrade it and make it better as light infantry, but you can also give it an animal to ride on, like the stag riders for the barbarians, and then it becomes a light cavalry unit, can become a heavy cavalry unit, can become a magical unit. So all the stuff you do is always about giving you choices that don't narrow down one path, but that'll allow you to actually branch out. We're going to show something. There's going to be a little snippet where we can show a little more.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, you know, unlike Panzer Corps 2, where people had to wait months, if not years, to actually see gameplay, we are going to actually show you some gameplay right away. So it's not that we're going to keep you waiting for long.
No, we're lucky. We haven't built the anticipation, but then we have.
Right. So tell us what we're looking at.
So this is literally the first minutes of the game you have, and I want to show something about choices and the way we've built up the game. We didn't want you to have just, you know, a rock paper scissors system where everything you do is going to be determined by a couple of set of rules, and if you keep to them, that's fine. So this is your first mission: is you raid another clan's stats in order to prepare for the winter, and raiding is a time-honored tradition amongst the barbarian clans. And that's just going to show you, we've got 4 units here, and some people said, well, isn't that too simplistic? Isn't it something that you know, people get bored of easily? And that's actually, there's a huge variety. Environment plays a role, morale plays a role, the type of unit, the abilities of the unit play roles. And this is one example where you fought the enemy, now you start to raid the village, you get your other units in, and already you guys are wounded because the younglings, the ravens that we have there, the X symbol, they are really good at ambushing, but they're not that good in direct combat. So taking a town is difficult for them, because if people are defending, you know, they got a problem. And we can see how that played out, and there's going to be a little surprise here, because forests are really good places for ambush, and a lot of animals, for example, can ambush as well, and that unfortunate unit suffers that. Forests are also good for defense, so if you attack somebody in a forest, it's going to be a little harder. So now we see how that scene, like the first couple of moves, played out. We only have 4 units. On my end, we have 2 units on the enemy side, or 1 enemy, one neutral unit. And it takes us 3 turns to take them down, and you see both of the X-Men are wounded already. The Spearman is wounded. The hero is the only one that hasn't really gotten the problem. The same scene now, exact same outset, and now we play a little more efficiently. And just going to show you what the amount of thinking that goes into that can do for you. Forests can hide, and these X-Men guys, the younglings, are actually really good at hiding and at ambush. So I'm going to lay an ambush for that guy over there. I'm going to lure him out. So I'm positioning my guys hiding in the forest. He doesn't see them yet. Then I take my hero, who's going to be, you know, sort of the meat shield, and he's also in rough terrain, which means his defense is much better. And we keep the spearmen back spear maidens actually back a little. So they run in, they get ambushed by our guys, and because remember the wolves? They are here. They ambushed as well, so my guys did 2 ambushes, made a lot of damage, and now the wolves attack the enemy. So I made them work for me, and without actually having to do extra work, I've taken down the enemy by letting it be eaten by wild wolves. They're still weakened, so I go in with my spearmen, who are really good because they've got a distance weapon, so they're doing a little more damage, and then a final charge that'll kill those guys, and I take the enemy town. Now this has taken me 3 moves as well, but none of my guys are wounded. None of them have very, very few wounds, very little damage, and it's 4 units, 2 enemy units, completely different effects and completely different setup in this very small sample. And that's obviously, if you now imagine a larger battle like this one, there is a lot of things you can do. There's a lot of things where commander, the heroes make a difference. The way you prepare makes a difference. And here's a typical situation: you've got a wall, you're invading the borderlands, and these people have put up walls to stop you from doing
How far are you into the game here?
That's an early, that's like I think the 9th or 10th map, so it's a relatively early third of the late third of the game, first third of the late part of the first of the game. So, and there's an advanced unit that they've sent, and I'm going to try to take that out. And there's a couple of things that you can do. For example, this is skirmisher, and they can actually attack and run back again, which means I don't risk, getting too close to the enemy. I can do little skirmish damage, but I'm not that scared. Then I've got the trolls, which I managed to recruit and convince to come to me, and they're sort of doing heavy damage. Later on, you can have troll hurlers, and they can throw boulders at walls, which would be really useful to have, but I have not upgraded them at that point. But I've got another unit. That's a bard. That's a hero who can fly sort of a winged leap into combat, finishes off the enemy. Now that can go on for a while. You can see that the AI is actually positioning relatively cleverly. We've got defensive fire, so when I attack now, all the archers from behind the walls will attack me before I get to attack the units weakening me. So I use my shieldmen, who are really good at defense, so they don't get as much damage. But by and large, you can see that this really, there's a challenge here, and you can just run into the enemy and attack them, because also if you lose too many units in attacking something like a wall that's manned with defenders, you're going to lose morale, and that'll make your units fight. Well, initially they'll be a little weaker in combat, and they'll actually even flee if you do that. So you can manage to demoralize your army by just throwing them at obstacles. You can't just treat them like they're.
I'd like to remind our viewers that we're still months away from release.
That's
a lot of the stuff you're seeing is not final at all. So
absolutely, that's an alpha, and that is a lot of the UI is something that doesn't know. Here's the upgrade tree. Maybe we can go into that again, because I talked about the variety, and if you see, this is the upgrade tree for the spear maidens, and that's an all-female unit, by the way. The barbarians field female units, and you can branch into anything. You can become a shield maiden, like you see the girls with big shields. You can become a javelin thrower, so more of a light unit. You can have light cavalry, as you can see the stag riders there. Winged maidens who can attack flying into the enemy. Stag lancers who are heavy cavalry, and that's just the one unit that branches out into many different ways. You can even have a magical unit like the Wolf Mother who can summon wolves to her. So yeah, that's just an example of the breadth of sort of the way we do it. Instead of having 200 units, of which like 150 are about the same as that infantry general, one way is sort of locked into one advancement way, light cavalry, better light cavalry, even better light cavalry. In our game, every unit can become a really different unit, and every unit matters. You don't necessarily upgrade to the next unit because you have to, because you might really use the unit you already have, and that has its own uses.
Yeah, can you explain this one a bit?
Oh, the Sunken Lens, yes. That's that's about the midst of the game, and you're facing an undead army here. And that's already, that's quite advanced. So we've got a lot of effects coming into play. There's morale. The undead are actually really good at scaring people. But there's also a lot of magic coming in. So this is one of the magic heaviest parts. You can see a spider in the upper right. So we've got large monsters that will obviously also change the way of battle, but we also have heroes and units that are specialized to kill larger guys. We've got magicians, as you can see, the necromancers, of the transmuters of the enemy. And the terrain makes a difference also with what type of unit is really good. There's a troll herder, you can see. He's really efficient.
Maybe we can show the last bit.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It was
and talking about large units. So there's a typical situation here. You've got one of the transmuters and his undead on a mana pool, so he's really strong in magic, and it's got a good defensive position. And here's my guys caught in spider webs. My hero already has got a bear now, and we've got another thing which is really useful, and that's a dragon. And you should always have a dragon with you when you're going to battle, and I'm going to show you why in a second, because this. And that's really useful.
That's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah, that's really, really interesting. Yeah, the game is, how far advanced are you in development?
We are in late alpha, early beta now, so we're going to do a closed beta test soon. Actually this week. I think you'll announce that later, so I've just gave it away. And getting the first feedback in for the campaign missions. You can see some of the UI hasn't been done yet. We're going to revisit that. But I think most of the core stuff that's there, and we're really, really interested now in seeing people play it and seeing how they progress on the balancing parts to really get sort of nuts and bolts.
Yeah, one of the things I just gave away, and that's perfectly fine. So the game is going to enter into beta soon, so we're accepting beta subscriptions as of now, basically. So you go on the Slytherin site, and there's a call for beta there. You can subscribe. We, as Ian said, we're gonna do a small group at the beginning because the core players will add more in the future, but a few of you will have a
and we're a
chance
small
to play
team,
the
so
game.
we can only read so many mails and comments, so we'll need to get it narrowed down a little.
Well, one of the things you were saying that caught my imagination pretty strongly was this idea of progression, right? And matched with the idea of choices. That progressions you make are not just linear. You actually decide what to do, and then you enter the wall scenario, which is very different from any other scenario, right?
Yes.
How do you balance this with having players make some choices, and then further down the line finding out that their choices impact the way they have to face scenarios?
Well, and on the one hand, one of the things we always say, that's life. You make choices in life, and then you find out they're not really the best idea. But what we do is usually there's always army composition. So there's things that are better and things that are worse, but it's rare that you really have to sort of build into a corner in order to make it impossible for you to resolve a certain scenario. However, there's always different strategies around that. And if you're really in a pinch, you can, for example, in most maps you can hire mercenaries. That'll cost you, so your decisions cost you in the sense of you actually have to pay for them. But they can be the units that you may be lacking. Then there's always, as you see in the upgrade tree, it doesn't go like this, it goes like that. So if you find out that your light cavalry unit, maybe your stack rider is not good, maybe you go for heavy cavalry, or maybe you go into skirmisher. So there's, at every point you can still have the next step be something that's variable.
Right.
And of course you've got magic, you've got heroes. If you've got too many slow units, there's a couple of heroes that have a speed spell. You can have specific magical items that you can give grant the units if you find them. And they can sort of alleviate problems that you may have. But by and large, what we're trying to do is we're trying to throw new challenges at you. So there is no one winning composition of army that will always take 2 of these, 3 of these, and you're going to be good. You'll have to adapt your strategies, but there's always ways around this, ways around that wall, by the way. We haven't shown them, but you can find them. And they'll allow you to sort of circumvent some of the defenders and try to come from behind. You can try to drag them, and as you can see, you can use environmental factors like the wolves in the initial example. You can have the enemy, well, the neutrals, fight for you. You can make them work for you in a way if you're clever enough to do that.
Is the game, I mean, I can see there's a lot of points of departure from the original Fantasy General. What are the key points that these two games have in common?
Actually, I think it's not that different. It's, as I said, it's what we imagine Fantasy General to be. So I think the core, there's a solid hex strategy. It's really clear what to do. So you look at stuff and you see, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. It's the same amount of variety. It's just instead of having 150 units doing one specific thing, we've got 70 units doing like 4 or 5 things. And in this way, I think it's the same. It's just more depth that is more apparent to the player. So you can actually make your decisions as opposed to having some arcane mechanic below the hood basically doing stuff for you. We brought it up and we made it an obvious, not obvious, but a visible choice for the player. So I'm thinking this is really closely related. If you loved Fantasy General, this one feels very much the same, but it makes it easier for you to create a wider variety of things to do. That's just the thing. It'll not lock you into certain paths. It'll give you more breadth and more width, but pose sort of the same challenges and give you sort of the same dynamic in gameplay. Like the flow is very similar.
One of the things I wanted to sort of mention to you guys, and I really feel it's important, is that this is a game made in partnership with GOG.
Yes.
We have GOG actually own the Fantasy General license or the IP as you call it. They actually sell the first Fantasy General game on their site, they've been exceptionally good to work with into actually preparing this and making sure that we were able to show you the game today. They have the page live for wish lists as well, and at the same time they allowed us to take the game to a wider public. So it's not like, hey, here's a brand, you got to sell it through our system only. That's a big thing. That's a big thing. That's really helpful for us, for the market, for everyone to get hold of their favorite games. So big kudos to GOG and the guys there have been absolutely amazing into the process. So before I'd like to move to questions from our players out there, and that's a good moment to do it. I guess there's going to be a lot. I've seen a lot of questions going through and passing by in the chat, but I was glancing at them. So if you'd like to repost your questions in the chat, that would be awesome, so that we can answer them. One of the questions I saw was, is the game building, what's the engine?
So
tell us more about
we're building in Unity. So we're using currently Unity, I don't know, I'm not going to say this, my code is going to beat me if I do it wrongly, but it's one of the current Unity builds. And I saw some people complaining or being afraid of the min specs. The current min specs in the Steam store are before optimization. That's the ones we can guarantee, and we're trying to bring it down. But so maybe you don't have to yet buy a new PC to play the game. I don't think it's that difficult. And we're also going to include options for graphics that will allow you to scale them down a little in order to get better performances. So that's one of the things. You will have to have Windows 10. However, I think there's no way around that, unfortunately, because that's Unity, not us, making that decision. There's a question about linear campaign. It's not linear. There's choices. Not every step of the way. It starts when we start out, it's a little linear, branches out. Some of the choices are consecutive, so you can do, I do this map first and then do that map, or some of them are alternates. So if you do this, you can't do that anymore. The key points in the campaign are going to be the same, so you're always going to end up at Krell's Landing, and you always have to beat the Empire, but the way to that can be very, very different. And inside the campaign choices, there are story choices you make about which heroes you take with you. Sometimes two heroes just won't get along, so you have to decide which one you want. Sometimes you're going to decide between ransoming the guys you've taken hostage, or just killing them because you want to show that you're a tough guy. So there's these choices alongside that influence the campaign.
Multiplayer.
There's going to be multiplayer. We start off with a 1 versus 1 PvP. Technically, we're able to do more, but that's sort of balancing wise. That's for us a solid option, and hopefully, if it's successful enough and people like it, we're going to do more in the future on that. But it's definitely going to have, from the get-go, it's going to have online multiplayer.
PBM system.
Yes, we're going to use PBM 3. We're the brand new PBM 3.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll work out. So it's going to be through the PBM system that we're using, but everybody from GOG and Steam and Slytherin accounts can play through PBM.
Yeah, one of the questions I've seen is that where the beta happening. The beta is going to happen through Steam builds, right?
Yes, we're going to release Steam builds for the beta. You can't apply through Steam, but it's going to be available through Steam, yeah.
ETA?
Yes, that's for you to say.
Well, guys, at the moment we're targeting sort of a summer release, but you never know. Jan is saying we're releasing in summer, so we're definitely releasing in summer.
I'm totally confident of my team's ability to release in summer.
So
Team,
it's not
are you
away.
listening? I'm totally confident.
We are targeting this the summer release, so it's not too far away actually.
Yeah.
It's
Maximum of units. Yeah.
max number of units on screen.
As many hexes as you can fit on your computer screen is the answer. I mean, we've tried with literally every single space on the screen being occupied with a unit, and that's technically possible. If it's, I don't know whether it's an interesting gameplay situation, so probably we won't have that. But the army starts pretty small because we want to get you to get used. And if you've seen, there's a lot of decision making even in a very small force. So we build that up a little slowly. You don't start with 50 people, but you're going to build an army pretty quickly, and you're also going to see a lot of larger oppositions. But by and large, I can tell you the gameplay keeps you pretty busy, even with like 10, 15, 20 units.
Any news on the campaign series of Flashpoint campaigns Southern Storm? Woohoo! That's an interesting question. Sorry, not for you, Jan. I'm going to try and answer this one. Both series are going to get new releases. Campaign series is the new game in the campaign series is still planned to release this year, and Southern Storm as well. Although both teams are not committing at the moment, but definitely two series that have a long life left. So it's not over, and especially I would say that any war game, any of the Matrix style war games have a longer gestation in general, because the teams are smaller, or because the techs are old, or whatever. The technology is running fast and we need to keep up, and the teams are small, so we need to be patient, but definitely we're not abandoning these, and the development teams are doing an incredibly hard work to actually bring them on to the next level. So it's definitely happening, and same for Distant Worlds 2, although Distant Worlds 2 we're gonna have more to show soon, so I'll leave it a bit more teasing this time. Panzer Corps 2 question: will we see the impact of battles on the map directly? Craters, damaged towns, forest fires? I am not aware of that, but I'm pretty sure the guys, development team, will be able to answer the question during the stream in May, beginning of May, when we do the next one, because the devs are going to be available to answer questions there. Fog Empires challenge: will Fog 2 Battles and Creation be an option challenges can utilize in play? I am not sure. I don't think so at this stage. I think that this is going to focus exclusively on the Empire's core mechanics, so it's not going. I don't think it's going to be available in this build. Random maps for Field Fans General 2.
Yes. We'll have two modes actually. There's going to be skirmish maps, and we're going to have a map generator, so you can either play on some of the campaign maps, or you can procedurally generate maps according to certain settings that you give it, and create your own maps with that. We're happy actually for you to do that, and you can also upload them and then make them something that other people can play. So that's going to be there. We will also, there's two questions, I think, was the max map size. We're looking, we haven't decided yet. It really depends on how much we cram into the machine. We're currently looking at 60 times 60, but maybe we'll do it a little smaller because it takes a long time to do that. If you look at the movement ranges of the units and the intensity of the battle, that's a pretty big map. But yeah, that's something that's around that size that we can go without crashing your computer.
Yeah. Other question, guys, or we can. I mean, we're well over our hour because we started 3 minutes late, so we're still within the hour. I'm pretty sure we're still in time to finish within the hour. But guys, the next stream will be on May 6th, I think. It's the first Monday of May. Same time. We're gonna have Panzer Corps 2 gameplay. We are having a lot of new announcements in the meantime as well, and as we approach release of some of the big games we have, we now basically announce them all for this year. So we're pretty excited about what's coming up, and there's more. We will definitely update you on new stuff releasing, and if there is too much to say, we'll probably do another one in the meantime without strictly sticking to the monthly stream. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Jan, for coming over from Germany.
It's been a pleasure.
You came for the town and for the food, I guess, and
for the company.
And the company, of course. And we'll see you back at the Stadium Bar in May 6th. And thanks for watching, guys.
See you around.